Well, unfortunately, most people that purchase a unit or a home in a condominium association or a homeowner association have absolutely no idea what the rules and the regulations and the other restrictions that are contained in the other governing documents of the association. Typically, you have 4 governing documents. You have the declaration, which in condominiums is typically called the Declaration of Condominium. And in homeowners, it can be called Declaration of Restrictions or Covenants. And those are really the nuts and bolts of how the association operates. And it gives the association the rights to collect assessments. It gives the associations the right to budget for those. It gives the association the rights to collect from unit owners if they don't pay those associations. It has certain use rights that are established of what a unit owner can do and can't do, what kind of easements the developer, if it's still under developer control, has, and if not, what kind of easements that the association, which is run by the board of directors, has. It outlines what the common elements are. So you have your house or your condominium unit that you own, but there are common elements, balconies, common elements. You have condominium associations, you share roofs oftentimes. So those types of things are very, very important to know prior to a purchase. You also have bylaws, which is how the association is supposed to operate, and voting rights of the members of the association, the rules that the board of directors have to follow in regard to board of director meetings and to annual meetings of the unit owners or homeowners. You have the articles of incorporation, which may dictate when the association turns over from developer control to unit owner control. And then you have rules and regulations that the board of director passes that take care of kind of restrict mundane things, such as whether or not you can have a pickup truck that's parked in your driveway, or can you have a boat or an RV, or what kind of animal you can have, or the size of animal. Those can be contained in rules and regulations or in the declaration. One of the other things that is usually contained in the Declaration of Covenants or the Declaration of Condominium is the ability to make any types of modifications to your home or to your unit. A lot of associations in the declaration have architectural review committees. So if you want to make a modification to your house, which may include something as minor as painting your house, you may have a certain color scheme that you are committed to, and so that if everybody has, brown and green houses, and you want to paint your house bright pink, you're going to have a problem because the architectural review committee is going to say no to that. And there are statutory issues that come up as well that govern it. And under condominiums, it's Florida Statute 718. And under homeowners associations, it's Florida Statute Chapter 720. And those also have restrictions in regard to what can be changed, what the associations and the unit owners can do, what number of votes are needed if it's not clear in the governing documents. Sometimes if it is clear in the governing documents, the statutes will supersede the governing documents. So there are a whole lot of authorities that govern a person's right to kind of live the way they want to live within such an association. And if you don't research those prior to purchasing, then there's going to be some unhappiness. And it may also affect your ability to sell the unit or resell it after you've purchased it. So it's always a good idea to get a copy of those documents. And I think it's a real good idea to have an attorney, and consultations really don't cost that much, to sit down and say, okay, what are your concerns? And the attorney can point out and say, do you understand that here you're telling me that you have 4 dogs? Do you understand that this allows 1 dog and it has to be under 20 pounds? So if you purchase this property, you're either going to have to get rid of the other 3 dogs, or the 4th if it's not under 20 pounds, or you're not going to be able to live there, or you're going to take your chances and run into problems. And then at some point, the association is probably going to write you nasty letters and sue you if you don't comply. So those are the kinds of messes that you want to avoid. Those are the kind of messes that an attorney like myself deals with every day. But part of my job is not just to deal with the messes when they come up, but it's to prevent those types of things from happening. So if somebody comes to me and let's say they have an hour consultation and it costs them $250 to have that consultation, and it saves them $10,000 worth of grief in the future, then certainly that's a worthwhile endeavor. So I think that the smart thing to do is to make sure that you get a hold of the governing documents. You make sure that you get a hold of the newest governing documents. And one of the other reasons why it's important to hire counsel is because not only are you dealing with those governing documents that were initially recorded, but there are also 2 amendments that are made. And sometimes those aren't easy to find in the public records. And so that's kind of where you need the attorney to go and find those amendments and make sure that, oh, here, I'm looking at the declaration or I'm looking at the bylaws and it doesn't say anything about restriction of pets. And then all of a sudden you look at the 3rd Amendment that was recorded 4 or 5 years after the original declaration was amended, and all of a sudden it says no pets allowed. And so if you haven't looked through all those amendments, found them, and then be able to interpret them, I think it's always a good idea to talk to a lawyer before you do that. And then if you talk to a lawyer and you feel comfortable, then you can purchase that. The other thing is, and this is a little less common, but obviously when you live in those types of associations, you have to pay assessments. You have to pay maintenance assessments. And typically the title company or the attorney that's doing the closing will get an estoppel to make sure that the prior owner doesn't have a lot of delinquencies that you're going to be responsible for, and those are paid off. And there usually is a sheet that will inform the new purchaser from the association as to what the current assessments are going to be. But you also, too, need to ask some questions because there may be a special assessment that is either been imposed and is there in addition to the general maintenance assessments, or it's been voted on and you know if the board knows it's coming, but it really hasn't taken place yet and it hasn't been imposed against the owners yet. And those are questions that you need to have an answer to before you close on the property. And those are the kind of questions that an attorney that practices in that field can look at and give the owner, if not clarification, they can give them confidence that, hey, this is what you're going to be paying, at least for the next year when the budget is still in play. And then obviously budgets can change and assessments can change.